The NBA in-season tournament heads to the semifinal round in Las Vegas beginning on Thursday, but could the tournament format perhaps change? One inside the NBA front office does believe so. An indigenous lacrosse team could be at the Olympic Games in 2028. The White House backs push for a solo squad in 2028. We'll also look at what has been going on as well involving Sports Illustrated's major shakeup in wake of controversy surrounding the use of artificial intelligence with fake stories and even fake authors. And also, the Savannah Bananas are proving to be too big for even the biggest of Major League Baseball stadiums. All that and more on a Wednesday edition of Press Row right now.
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Happy Hump Day, everybody, and welcome into a Wednesday edition of Press Row, covering all the angles and avenues of the wide world of sports via the sports media and sports business side of every angle given here on Coast to Coast Entertainment. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, joining you here today. As we mentioned, it is a rare Wednesday edition, but as I also mentioned a couple of shows ago, that we will, in fact, be moving to a 3-day schedule, Mondays, Thursdays, and Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday pretty soon here on Coast to Coast Entertainment, late afternoon, early afternoon, or in this case, early evening here on C2C for the next couple of episodes here on Coast to Coast Entertainment. Again, folks, yours truly, Callan McClurg, joining you here from the home studios in San Diego, California. Hoping you and yours had a tremendous Wednesday and are enjoying yourselves here today. Again, folks, a lot to cover here today on our program here this afternoon, for that matter, this evening here. Again, talking all things involving the sports world in across the whole board when it boils down to the sports media and sports business side of affairs here this afternoon. And again, we welcome your input. Again, questions, comments, or concerns as our show does prolong here this afternoon here today. With that in mind, folks, we are entering the final home stretch of the inaugural NBA in-season tournament. And Front Office Sports' David Rumsey writes, in-season NBA tournament upshot success, but will it continue, but will it also change? The first ever NBA in-season tournament semifinals begin on Thursday in Las Vegas, when the Pacers, Bucks, Pelicans, and Lakers battle for a spot in Saturday's final and a whopping $500,000 per player prize for the winners of the tournament. By most accounts, the inaugural edition of the event has been a success, though many players and fans initially questioned the event's purpose, including Clippers guard Bones Highland, who said before the tournament even began, by most accounts, I'm not even going to lie, I don't even know what's going on, open and close quotes. Folks, I will say this much real quick, and I'm having some trouble loading the story here via Front Office Sports, though, but I can say, though, that this has been a very, I'd say, not controversial, but very big talking point as this NBA season has begun here, November into early December. Now we're approaching and entering the home stretch now here of this in-season tournament again, copying some ideas from international soccer over in Europe. And so far, I will say this, that I've been very pleased with how this event has been run, though. And I think I may have said on this episode or on an episode of Press Row or a recent episode here on Coast to Coast, though, about my thoughts about this IST idea. And I think a lot of us agree that our basketball fans, either casual or diehard fans, though, would say, okay, you're going to be adopting something foreign to the American sports landscape. Again, this in-season tournament. Yeah, you've done it before in the WNBA recently, which has been very, very, very well received in their league. But I also think, though, that there's been 4 or 5 key points that I really believe that I have used to back my thoughts about why I felt that this was a great way to get fans and players involved with the game. Is the biggest reason for me is media rights. We always hear these stories, though, whenever our program is on, that the NBA is looking at a bargaining negotiation for media right deals with either ESPN, Turner, any of the big outlets, Fox, NBC, Peacock, you name it. That this has been a thing that has been talked about, though, is it's more along the lines of the fact that now we are going to be having the media rights for the NBA coming up for auction. Basically, highest bidder will win after the 2024-2025 season, I believe. So that's been the one caveat I really think has played a factor as to why the tournament became a thing. The second thing, most importantly in my book, is it's as simple as this. You think back to when the NBA went the route of this whole player participation policy. You can't sit Kawhi Leonard and Paul George back-to-back games. You can't sit LeBron James or Anthony Davis. You can't sit Luka Doncic with 5 games left in the season when he's fully healthy. That, I think, is another big bargaining chip, though, or why I think that this in-season tournament became a thing, is that Joe Dumars said it so right, though, I think, over the offseason when this idea became consummated. This is a full 82-game season. We as the NBA are getting tired and fed up seeing our teams sitting these big name players. And especially, like I said, though, back here, when that rule became a factor, I get more ticked about it when guys like a LeBron, an AD, a Dame Lillard, a Giannis, or a Steph Curry, when they sit on the road. And when they also sit on the road, when they go to a market like the East Coast, one time and one time only. And again, those fans out there who buy the tickets, they get their friends or family to go to a game. And then they find out when they get to the building, like 15, 20 before the game begins, oh, LeBron's not playing. So here we just wasted like half of our life savings to go watch LeBron James, probably the greatest player of this era, not all time. Notice how I said this era. And he's not playing because he wants to sit out because we're playing, the Lakers are playing, Indiana, for example, or Cleveland, or they're playing, some, fringe organization in the Midwest or the East Coast, though. But getting back, though, to some of the big numbers, though. As the group stage has played out, though, the NBA has seen their best November attendance ever with an average of 18,208 fans per game. Players have increased their intensity, and viewership has been up from what the NBA normally sees during this point of the season. For example, group play games on both ESPN and TNT saw a 26% increase from last season's comparable windows. So it is right now safe to say that the first ever NBA Cup being awarded on Saturday night won't be the last. That right there is the main thing. And that's point number 3 I wanted to bring up. Early season television viewership means everything, because I think a lot of casual sports fans who maybe are on the NFL bandwagon, but also maybe have interest in the NBA or even the NHL, they all say, well, I won't watch basketball or watch hockey until the last 2 months of a season. Like, I don't really care about early season storylines. I'll pick it up after the All-Star break or once the playoffs roll around for both pro hockey and pro basketball. And I think the NBA, to their credit, is trying their hardest to change that narrative. Like, again, it goes back to Joe Dumars' quote earlier in the offseason. We want the NBA to be visible for all 82 games of the season. So I think that while I can see, though, that folks might say, well, the only reason why is you put in a player participation policy, and you added in more money, like as if these guys don't get paid enough. I totally get that. But also, I think about something I saw, though, when the Pacers beat Boston in the quarterfinal game just a couple days ago. Don't sit here and tell me that just because that you're adding more money or more moolah or cachet into a prize pot is, helping ramp up the viewership. I think, folks, if you were to go back and rewatch that game when the Celtics played Indiana, don't tell me those people at Gainbridge Fieldhouse did not care that the Pacers were going to win that game and move on to the semifinals. The energy I saw in that building for a regular, no value added, run of the mill Monday night game in the middle of December in Indianapolis, Indiana, goes to a point that Kevin Durant brought up after the Suns played the Lakers in LA on Tuesday night. The in-season tournament, especially with the quarterfinal game, it makes it feel like a playoff atmosphere. And I think LeBron James said it right. I know a lot of you out there don't appreciate LeBron James or like what he says in the media, but he said it right, though. If you're going to put something on the line, in December or November or at the very end with the Larry O'Brien, I think we all want the best players out there competing, playing their asses off and trying to win. And I think it, again, just goes back to my other point, though, that Joe Doomer said, this is an 82-game season schedule. Yes, injuries are a thing, though. But again, the whole thing of load management, resting your players, in November, in December, you really, you make it more of a 3-month season, not the full long 6 to 8 month grind, though. I think these numbers, say it right, though. Again, you're averaging almost 18,000 plus for games in November and December, when a lot of times fans, again, aren't in tune with pro basketball or pro hockey because they are so hell-bent and focused on the college football playoff, college football bowl season. Maybe they're interested in early season college basketball. Or again, it's the big bad NFL wolf, again, that consumes the daily fan base's, attention span during these months of the season. Now, again, I think it could go to a point, though, again, well, yeah, you're going to be paying filthy rich millionaires more money to play for a trophy that probably no one's going to put a banner up for. I go back to the Pacers argument, folks. They have the lowest payroll, I think, in the entire association right now. They have multiple players making barely $1 million. And I think that even Jose Alvarado of the Knicks even said, though they got bumped up by the Bucks, though, that money would have gone to helping his daughters prep for college, prep for life after they finish high school. Like, let's take the money factor out of it, or let's take the big market teams out of it. Look back, though, at how that crowd reacted in Indianapolis when the Pacers beat the Celtics. Again, this is a brand new thing again with this new in-season tournament, though. But that fan base getting on their feet. Now, again, it may be about Tyrese Halliburton having the 40-point double-double, triple-double, whatever it was, though. But I think, though, when you look, though, at the scope of things and look at it through the economic impact, though, that this is a ball club in the Pacers who does not really have a big-name superstar. They have, I think, one of the lowest, bottom 5 payrolls in the entire association. This means something to that organization. I even would throw the Pelicans in there. A team rebuilding, Zion Williamson having his issues on and off the floor, though. But I look at, the Pelicans and the Pacers as the two teams who I don't think will win the tournament, but that they are probably the reason, though, why I think I have been so entrenched, though, watching these games on Tuesday nights and Fridays, because for one, I've been kind of curious about how this format would work out. But also, now knowing, bottom 4, bottom 5 payroll in the Pacers, having their fan base electrified for a game against the big bad Boston Celtics in early December on a Tuesday night. This probably never happens if this tournament is not a thing or a factor. Now, I think the other thing, though, that is more of a talking point here, though, is more about the timing. I think I read from a fellow colleague of mine that they would like to see the in-season tournament go into the All-Star break. Maybe I think what was even written here from Evan Wash, who was the executive VP of strategy and analytics, even said, they talked about having 8 games for group play, not 4, where I think you would have had bigger groups, though, as opposed to how it is with the World Cup or with any other in-season tournament. But still, though, I think, though, I like the format to stay this way for a bit. I like the early season intrigue, though, because if you're trying to get people on board for a full-blown 82-game NBA season, having the in-season tournament, though, in November, in December, early to late, all of November and the first week or two of December, that can lock people in, though, especially when I think a lot of people like myself wouldn't really watch basketball till Christmas Day, or even with some fans saying, well, I won't watch till the All-Star breaks over. I won't watch until the playoffs begin. I think, though, for the NBA to cash in, though, for the media rights, the player participation, what it means, though, to like the Pelicans and the Pacers, even for that matter, with how, again, seeing these two, lesser known teams, again, not the Celtics, not the Lakers, or I know the Lakers are in there, but still, like, you kind of catch my drift, though, of like unproven ball clubs getting into this in-season tournament, though. And what this means, though, for, some players who maybe are on league minimum, $1 million deals, so that this $500,000 more is going to help some of these guys who maybe are on these rosters but aren't getting paid the buku bucks like Giannis and Dame and LeBron and AD, that this really, I think, becomes an incentive for teams, like LeBron said, to go out there and fight for something, whether it is in June, or in this case, early on in the NBA season, where, again, Joe Dumers is so right, that this league wants to change their narrative that, hey, quit sitting out games, keep doing this, quit doing this and doing that. And I absolutely have been on board for this. And I also think, though, to my other point, though, the games being in Vegas, it's simple. It's NBA expansion coming very soon. And Christy Wilson actually agrees with me that Calvis in-season tournament has been very good in her opinion. I think, though, Christy, it goes back, though, I think, more to my point, though, that this, I think, that it just means a bit more. I know it's not going to mean more to like the Lakers or the Bucks. They've won championships in the past couple years. But I think it will mean a lot more to a franchise like the Indiana Pacers, the Sacramento Kings, the New Orleans Pelicans, like a lot of these, low budget, improving young ball clubs where, again, I think the Pacers, I think FOS put a stat out, Christy, the Pacers are in the bottom half of the NBA in their payroll. Like, I think they have like at least half their roster is making barely league minimum, if that. And now just think, though, if the Pacers win this tournament, all those guys are getting another $500,000 tacked onto their contracts because of how this tournament is going to be with the NBA Cup. And I think also it's going to be helping out with salary. And I also think, though, that the WNBA starting this whole thing, though, in the NBA family. We saw, I think, the Liberty won it this past season over the Aces, which was presumably the finals preview, as it was, though, in the WNBA, though. But definitely, I think it's more, Christy, about, again, getting people involved, though, with the NBA at an early stage, though, and having them, I think, staying locked in for the entire NBA season. Though I know it's hard to do, though, like I said, though, because now we're approaching that time of the year, now that we have college football bowl season beginning. We have the playoff coming up in a couple of weeks. The NFL is coming down to the wire. I know people are going to be, losing sleep and losing, their minds over their fantasy football playoffs in about a week or two. And I think, though, it's the NBA trying to at least say, hey, we're still here, basically. And also, Christy says that the tournament has definitely attracted attention. I think, though, Christy, it's attention that the NBA I think, though, it's attention that the NBA has been seeking for a long time at this stage of the season. Again, kind of back to my point again, football is still on everyone's mind right now. Obviously not on my mind, because hockey's on my mind 24/7, 365 right now here at the stage of the season. But also it is about the attention that I think, though, it's bringing for like a franchise like the Pacers or even the Pelicans. Again, two teams not really driven by star players, small markets. And again, seeing that crowd erupt, though, winning a game over Boston on a Tuesday or a Monday night in the middle of December is what I think, though, is going to make this tournament work going forward. Again, I know it's about maybe the media right deals or trying to, drum up players to play the full season again when they're healthy, testing the waters for Vegas when it comes down to it, though, for the upcoming expansion bids, maybe. But so far, I think the NBA right now has a win-win scenario right now. That this, I think, is a great starting point for, I think, something that I think though is something very beautiful that they're building here. That I think, you have to kind of keep going as the time does keep going on and progressing on here at this rate. But certainly, I'm all in favor. I think a lot of us still out there, like I said though earlier, we're all kind of questioning this. Like, okay, we're going to bring in European soccer style scheduling into the NBA. And I think though that how we saw this play out though with the draws, the groups, how they, how the whole thing though seemed to be very weird on paper. But now that we've seen it play out in front of our eyes now, not reading it through whatever the NBA was writing about it though, or all the rules given, that this is a great starting point for the NBA going forward when it does boil down to the in-season tournament. Over in the Olympics, folks, Indigenous lacrosse team is at the Olympic Games could be possible as the White House has backed push for a solo squad made up of Indigenous lacrosse players for the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, California, coming up in just over roughly soon to be 4 years, pretty soon here in LA. FrontOfficeSports.com's beat writer Eric Fisher reports on Wednesday, just weeks after the announcement of lacrosse's inclusion in the 2028 Summer Olympic Games in Los Angeles, the sports leaders are now pushing for a significant modification to the competition, one that honors lacrosse's starting origins. The famed Haudenosaunee, a group of 6 indigenous nations, formerly known as the Iroquois, is petitioning the IOC to compete as its own team solely in the sport of lacrosse. Among those backing the push is the U.S. White House, the international governing body, World Lacrosse, and the LA 28 Organizing Committee, and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. U.S. President Joe Biden announced his support of the request on Wednesday during the White House's annual Tribal Nations Summit. President Biden said to reporters that their ancestors invented this game and they perfected it for a millennium. Their circumstances are unique and they should be granted a exception to field their own team at the Olympics, both open and close quote. The move will look to reflect lacrosse's creation by the indigenous people in what is now both the U.S. and Canada, as well as the competitive status of the Haudenosaunee. An indigenous team has been competing internationally in lacrosse since 1990, with the men's team ranked 3rd right now in the world behind both Team USA and Canada, and the women's team is ranked 8th right now in the lacrosse global rankings. The IOC, though, typically permits teams playing only as part of a official National Olympic Committee, such as the USOPC, and the request for Haudenosaunee inclusion is being framed as a narrowly scoped exception to those rules. The White House senior advisor and director of intergovernmental affairs told the AP, that's Tom Perez, that I cannot think of a more worthy candidate for inclusion than a confederation that literally invented the sport and has some of the most elite men and women in the sport in their nation, open and close quote. The Haudenosaunee effort represents a major acceleration of typical timetables for efforts within the Olympic movement. Lacrosse's general inclusion in the Games required nearly 2 decades long of active lobbying, but the indigenous movement has developed largely in a matter of weeks, and advocates have also said that they are pressing for an answer from the IOC well in advance of finalizing the lacrosse qualification process in early 2025. Leo Nolan, who's the executive director of the Haudenosaunee national team, says, I know it's a bit of a challenge. We want to make sure that the IOC understands the importance of lacrosse to our communities and to the entire world, open and close quote. Having covered indoor lacrosse, having worked the 2023 Men's World Lacrosse Championship Tournament here in San Diego, having worked a game with the Haudenosaunee, having seen Austin Stotts and his brothers play in the NLL indoors, this would be the absolute perfect idea to include the creators of this sport that I know is not really big on the West Coast, but it's much like hockey. It is growing at a very great pace. And I think mainly here locally in San Diego. And I think on the West Coast, though, I really applaud Paul Rabel, who's in charge of the PLL for outdoor lacrosse over the offseason. But I also applaud Joe Tsai, the longtime owner right now of the Nets and the Liberty, who also owns the San Diego Seals and the Las Vegas Desert Dogs of the National Lacrosse League, that the game's growth, though, cannot be understated, though. But I also feel like, though, that this would almost, in a way, folks, feel like Team USA not playing in flag football or baseball or basketball even, in the Olympic Games. Like to exclude the group of individuals who have passed this great game down from generation to generation across native land in the US and Canada. And having seen these guys play firsthand, though, folks, and it is a very amazing spectacle if you ever watch the Haudenosaunee national team play in person. Their fans are very, 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 very great people. And you also kind of get the sense of what this sport means to their community. And also, in a way, comparing a bit of apples to oranges, folks. But I would recommend though that you go and check out the Blackfoot boxing documentary on ESPN Plus if you have it, because this is a way though. Lacrosse has been a way though to get kids off the reservation and into sports, and I think they'll onto a better path for their life. And I think back though a lot though to this past tournament or this tournament I did back in June out here in San Diego. Again, the biggest men's lacrosse tournament comes to San Diego, California, and you bring 107 teams to San Diego. You play actually, take that back. You play 107 games with 30 teams across this tournament. And having gotten to do one Haudenosaunee game at San Diego State University, I just got the sense of like, this is like watching baseball. This is like watching basketball. This is like watching soccer. This is basically watching what is called the Creator's Game, made by this group of Six Nation Indians and Six Nation natives, I should say. My apologies. That this group needs to be their own separate entity, and they should be, and must be allowed to compete under their nation's flag at the Olympics in lacrosse. Again, that would almost in a way feel like, if you don't include the Haudenosaunee in lacrosse, this would kind of feel like, in a way, Team USA not being able to play flag football, baseball, basketball, sports like that, though, or excluding like Mexico or Argentina or Spain or Brazil out of soccer in the Olympic Games. And again, I mainly go back, though, to this tournament that we had here in San Diego, and again, working this one Haudenosaunee game, how the fan base was chanting and how they were very, very down-to-earth individuals, though. And I believe, and I forget my guy's name, though, but I think it was Tyler, who I think either worked for the SEALs or he's a part of the Haudenosaunee group. I think he was like their team leader, like de facto team leader, team escort, basically. And Tyler did some PA with me and our group of announcers who did these games for the tournament here in San Diego. And after every game, though, Tyler had a very, and again, it's not self-centered, though, but Tyler had a very long spiel that he would say, though. But he would talk about how the Haudenosaunee began this game, though. And also a very cool note is that Austin Stotts, who is one of the big faces of the San Diego Seals of the indoor ranks, Austin and his brothers are a part of this group. They played for the Haudenosaunee team during the tournament. And before every game at Pechanga Arena, San Diego, for the Seals, there is a PSA kind of, but it's called what Mike Grace calls the land acknowledgement announcement. So Austin voices this video that explains to the fans who are at the game about his background, about the indigenous people who began the game. It was a game to heal the sick. It was a game to bring the tribes together for competition, but also it was to have fun. And it was a game handed down from the creator to their group to play this game among the groups and basically to help those who were sick or injured or stuff like that. It was a healing game. It was a game that, in a way, bringing everyone together on a given day to play this game of lacrosse, though. And then further, Austin says, though, San Diego has been founded by has been inherited by the Sandigidan people, and the Kumeyaay Nation has lived forever. And, we as lacrosse players, fully recognize this, and, and we bless, and we hope that they give us our blessing to play this game on their land. And that is kind of, in a way, tying into this whole thing. Like, the pride, I think, is more what is on the line here for a guy like Austin Stotts and his brothers Randy and Jerry I think of other players who played for Haudenosaunee during the tournament. Like, it'd be a badge of honor for these guys to play on the biggest global stage, being the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, California in 5 years, and wearing their purple jerseys where it says Haudenosaunee and having their name in their native language on the back, though. Like, it's more of a badge of honor that the game was considered for so long. Now the game is in the Olympic program. Now it's a matter of this next big step, though, that you actually allow the Six Nation groups, the indigenous people, like Austin Stotts, Jerry and Randy, Lyle Thompson and his brother Kyle. Like, you let these big name lacrosse players, don't force them to play for Team USA or Canada. Let these guys be their own group. Folks, as much as we always give a crop of, basically, a load of shit to Russia for how they've been playing under, how they've been competing as a neutral party in the Olympics. This is a whole different, way better neutral party story than what's going over with Moscow and with, the Russian Federation. There's no way possible that you can exclude the creators of this game that I know is not really big out here on the West Coast, though. But again, with the efforts, though, of Joe Tsai with the Seals and the Desert Dogs, the growth of youth lacrosse out here with high school teams, travel teams out here now because of the Seals, and again, having the money and the backing by Joe Tsai, Wayne Gretzky, Dustin Johnson, Steve Nash in Las Vegas, and Joe being the main prioritor here in San Diego, but also having so many players that, like, for example, Cam Holding, who now coach the game out here in San Diego. They do youth camps every summer. And also, I think that the fan base does, I think, generate something. But if you were to not allow the creators of this great game, and I have fallen in love, folks, with lacrosse because when the Seals came here, I was a beat writer covering them for a bunch of third-party outlets. Their inaugural year, I've shifted over to scoreboard operations for a bit, though. But I've also have dialed back into writing for them for a little bit, though. If you were to not let Austin Stotts, Lyle Thompson, or some of the biggest Haudenosaunee players not wear that badge of honor and be a part of the first, at least what I can recall, the first time ever that lacrosse has been in the Summer Olympics, I think it would be a very, very extremely heinous slap across the face. Because this would almost feel like if Team USA was not allowed to play basketball or play flag football in 5 years. Like, we'll allow Team USA to play in certain sports, but if you leave out the creators of the game of lacrosse, though, that has a very big following, in Canada, in the upper northeast of the U.S., though, again, it would feel like a very big slap across the face, though. But I also would think about just the badge of honor that the Stott family and the Thompson family, for example, would have, though, like knowing that their ancestors played this game generations ago. And again, like Austin said, though, it's a game that would bring the tribes together. It was a game made to heal and promote goodwill among the tribes. Yeah, you played to win the game, but it was more about, fun competition. Again, bringing groups together. And I think, though, folks, that's what I think the Olympic Games is all about. Other than the fact that there's controversy every damn year when the Olympic Games roll around, though, is we're trying to bring the world together and forget about global crises and global tension for like 4 weeks out of the year, though, every 2 to 4 years with the Winter or Summer Games, though, is that we want to bring people together onto a playing field to establish goodwill. And I think, though, that's why I think that the White House backing this today and that they're pushing to have the Haudenosaunee play as their own separate group away from Team USA or Canada, this needs to happen. I mean, if this can happen with World Lacrosse like it did in 2023, I don't see how the IOC can't make another exception to let the Stotts and the Thompsons, again, just as an example, but let all the members of Haudenosaunee play as their own separate entity when the games roll around in 5 years. But I am absolutely, folks, on board for this. I think this is a great idea to, again, getting the creators game, again, the creators game created by the Haudenosaunee and Six Nations, you need to have their team playing as their own third party in the Olympic Games in 5 years. And I know we have a long way to go, though, but again, you do have to factor in like qualifying for the Olympics. Again, we already have that going on still right now for 2024 in Paris. Like this really, I think, though, is one I'll keep an eye on. But I definitely think, though, that, again, to wrap up before we move on to our next talking point, though, is I really think, though, that the meaning, though, that this would have for this group of indigenous people and these groups of people who are the best at their sport, playing this sport. But again, though, it's more about playing a sport, though, that has been passed down from generation to generation among their native groups and among their people. This would be such an amazing thing if this came to fruition by allowing the Haudenosaunee and the Iroquois to play these games or play the Summer Olympics in lacrosse, the creators game in 2028 as their own separate entity and as their own team going on at this stage. Moving over, folks, to a major shakeup at one of the most well-known and respected and perhaps best-selling sports publications of all time, folks, but a major, major shakeup and major issues plaguing the one and only Sports Illustrated, as reports have come out over the last several days, and for that matter, the last week, though, of Sports Illustrated being caught in the limelight of AI and artificial intelligence, including pumping out content involving fake journalists and also even fake stories as well. And that has led to a big shakeup involving two top executives as of Wednesday, including the new owner of the group, Manoj Bhargava, forcibly taking the reins and saying to employees, "Stop doing dumb stuff," open and close quote. Just a week after Sports Illustrated suffered an embarrassing AI scandal, the company's latest leader laid down the law for his new employees as of Wednesday. Manoj Bhargava, the five-hour energy drink owner, whose firm earlier this year purchased a controlling stake in the Arena Group, which operates SI, introduced himself in a meandering video call with staff on Wednesday afternoon. A shakeup atop SI and the Arena Group out are COO Andrew Kraft and President of Media Rob Barrett. As the new owner took charge of the publication, sources have told FOS. Bhargava told SI staffers, per one source on hand for the presentation on Wednesday, "No one is important. I am not important, and the amount of useless stuff you guys do is staggering." The meeting went on for nearly 90 minutes, and also Bhargava joked at one point, did anyone bring any 5-hour? Other highlights included comments from him during this town hall about a rant about recycling being useless, telling employees that leaders of SI should stop doing dumb stuff, and declared that PowerPoints are illegal because such presentations are a waste of time. The Arena Group told FOS via a statement that today, Manoj conducted a virtual town hall and spoke with the staff of the Arena Group and took questions. Also today, some adjustments to the business have been made to improve efficiency and revenue, and also some changes to senior management were also made, open and close quote. This, again, folks, came in wake of a very damning story that came out just a week ago where SI had been accused for using artificial intelligence to drum up fake stories and even having fake biographies and photos of AI writers who actually didn't exist. Folks, I think that we have been kind of entering a major crossroads when it boils down to sports media. Because now we are at the point right now where we all read everything online. I literally sit on my rear end on the couch every day when I'm not working, reading content from Front Office Sports and Awful Announcing, who again are the lead two sources that we read on this podcast almost every week. But also that now that the internet has ballooned to what it is, and also that now we read the newspaper online, we read SI online, that I really don't know, though, if a shakeup like this will change anything for SI. I think, though, I'm more embarrassed and, frankly, for that matter, more surprised, though, that of all the outlets that would have been funneling and fiddle farting around with AI, it'd be SI. Because I think a lot of the biggest sports news that we probably have ever read, heard about, learned about, and talked about, SI has covered it in some way, shape, form, or size. And the fact, though, that SI can stoop down to that level of utter stupidity to go to AI, though I have in the past, though, recently for ideas on commercial spots I was going to write, team names for a fictional hockey league I was trying to get started up pretty soon. Like, now I see why Hollywood was on strike for the past 7 months, basically. Because now we could just go to Chat GPT, type in, write me a recap of this game I covered, and then you have your story. And it's almost like, in a way, like it like in a way, it goes to a point that I remember seeing, though, about this really hurting the journalistic integrity of sports writers. And again, I might tap into Chat GP occasionally for maybe ideas on writing a story or wanting some information on something or generating some stupid ideas I have on my off days from work, though. But even though with the change here with SI, I really don't see, though, how this will change anything, because I think, though, that I don't think a lot of fans or people nowadays are buying magazines from their local drugstore or the grocery store or the gas station or even the airport, honestly, like they once did. I think the explosion of the Athletic, for example, reading the newspaper on the web, like everything being available on the web, paywalls or not, it really will. I don't think it really. I really don't think, though, has that much of an effect as I think it really does. But I do think, though, the AI usage, though, is becoming a breaking point, I think, because look back at how long it took Hollywood to get back out of their mess with the writers and actors strike, because mainly the writers strike, because here, all you had to do was write me a movie plot with AI. Bingo, you had the next potential blockbuster film already released. And again, taking the human element, taking people's jobs away because of something that is not 100% accurate is now at our disposal. They every time I use Chat GPT for something, they put a little small disclaimer. This is merely an idea. It's not perfectly set in stone or perfectly right. But it does, I think, begin to weigh some concerns, though. And I think more than anything else, though, the fact, though, that out of all the publications, though, that SI goes the route, though, of fake stories from fake named writers with fake AI generated avatars, I do believe, though, begins to cloud the perception of the writing or journalistic integrity now of covering anything, sports, politics, business, you name it. Because now basically we could just go to Chat GPT. If we're a sports writer like I am, in a way, I could basically go there and write, okay, please write me a article about me interviewing Candace Parker in 2014. And I have that done. And I haven't really sat down and really express, because I think, though, one thing, though, that, and the reason why, folks, that writing has been one of my other hallmarks, not really, though, is I remember a lot of times, though, hearing from teachers of mine when I was in elementary school or middle school, high school even, is my descriptive writing was way, really high up on the chart, because I could go into such detail about the smallest little nuance or smallest little detail that I don't think you would get from AI. You would kind of get a very, not really bland, but very straightforward answer, but not really diving deeper into the details of like a Hail Mary touchdown pass to win the game with the crowd storming the field to win the game over the number one ranked team in the nation in football, or a half court heave to win the at the buzzer to win the national title, or winning, your first championship in 50 plus years as a sports city. You won't get that emotion, I think, out of AI. But I think I'm more, though, perplexed, though, just more embarrassed, I think, for SI that they would even consider going down that rabbit hole when they have been probably the most well-known, well-respected sports publication probably of all time. But they are now going down a very dark path, though, by even tapping into AI for anything is beyond bonkers and ludicrous. Because now we're going to be having more talk of layoffs going on, where, again, more great writers could be losing their job and their welfare and their benefits and all that stuff. Because now companies want to take the easy way out, though. They want to go the easier way of, like, not even having beat writers cover teams now for certain publications. They want to have it, all done the easy way. They don't want to pay people, they don't want to pay people to do a job like this, go and cover a team for a full year. They want to rely on wire service, rely on the Associated Press, rely on Reuters. They don't want to actually have people go and do the hard work. They want the hard work done for them. And now we're talking about robots here coming in and maybe doing this as well. One last story for the day, though, folks. We are going bananas, but the Savannah Bananas, the biggest story in all of baseball, has proved now to be even too big for Major League Baseball teams, and for that matter, even Major League Baseball stadiums. Even a move to play in some MLB ballparks is still not nearly enough to satisfy fans' intense demand for the wildly successful Savannah Bananas over the course of their upcoming tour. The ongoing independent barnstorming baseball team said it has received over 2 million lottery entries for tickets for their upcoming 2024 Banana Ball World Tour. That tour includes 6 stops at MLB ballparks, which includes Minute Maid Park in Houston, Fenway Park in Boston, Nationals Park in D.C., Progressive Field in Cleveland, Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, and Lone Depot Park in Miami, Florida. That's a quantum leap given its history of playing solely in minor league or even college baseball facilities. But in several instances, though, the Bananas have received over 100,000 lottery entrants for tickets to games at stadiums that seat less than half that many people. For example, in Houston, they saw over 158,000 entries, whereas Minute Maid Park in Houston can only hold 41,000 people for a game. Boston received over 145,000 entries for a game at the 37,000 plus seat Fenway Park in Boston. The Banana Ball World Tour, will begin in February on the 8th in Tampa and runs through October. Loosely described as baseball's version of the famous Harlem Globetrotters, the Bananas became a cultural force this year, drawing more than 550,000 fans to games, building a ticket waiting list beyond 1 million names, along with the fact that their TikTok account has boasted nearly 8 million followers, surpassing even the official feed of Major League Baseball. Team owner Jesse Cole said via a statement on a Instagram post that now the real hard work begins. While over 1 million people will not be able to experience the show, we still will have 1 million fans and many first timers. We have to deliver on that experience. Open and close quote. In a day and age, folks, where baseball has been a game largely criticized because of the pace of the game, the factors in place of the rule changes this past season, this and that, team moving out of their old market to go to Las Vegas, Nevada. There's so many negative talking points when it boils down to baseball. And I even feel that way right now with how the free agency has played out with Shohei Ohtani, with the winter meetings going on, and how that has been a complete disaster and three-ring circus about, teams can't publicly say that they have talked to Shohei in his camp. But in a day and age, though, folks, like I've long said, though, we are in a day and age right now where baseball has lost their luster. And I think they regrouped a little bit last season. But then I think about how the Savannah Bananas have really, I think, have gotten fans intrigued for the sport of baseball again. Now, it might be the fact, though, that this is a lot like the Globetrotters. They play the same team over and over and over, though I think they have a third team now, part of the traveling show when they play games, whether it's the Party Animals, or I think it's the Firemen now, or the Firebirds or Fireballs, I want to say, against the Bananas. I know that their rules are a little bit, that they have rules that are different for the game, though. But at the same time, though, is how can you not love their content on the web? That is something that I wish I was able to go to last summer. They had played a couple of games in, I believe, in Cucamonga, in Fresno, and in Sacramento, and they played at 3 minor league ballparks. But I love what the Bananas are doing, though, is I think despite maybe the fact that the game might be rigged, the game might already be like pro wrestling predetermined, though. I think, though, with the rules that they have in place, with the game, like 2 hours hard, it's points, not runs. If a fan catches a foul ball in the air, it's an out. Like, they have a lot of, quirky rules, though. But I think, though, that you're going for the fact of it being the Globetrotters. You're going there for a game, but also for a show. I absolutely love seeing, like the Party Animals, like one of the teams. I think I saw a video and actually the thing I love the most, though, is that the Bananas, wherever they go, one big name celebrity or one big name former major leaguer suits up and plays for them. I think Jake Peavy, longtime Padre ace and Cy Young Award winner, actually went and threw for them in Mobile, in Alabama, where he's from. And I think he actually pitched that night with the Gold Glove. He actually won with the Padres in 05 or 07. How does that not get fans interested? The fact you might go to a game and see Shane Victorino, Jake Peavy, Doug Flutie, see some big name athlete or big name celebrity who played the game, who probably played baseball or was an athlete, play though, but also you get the entertainment value though of the pitcher on stilts, the choreographed dances when the pitcher is making his delivery to the plate though, they are such a fun group to watch. And again, I know it's not a real baseball game. Again, it's but also the new age version of the Globetrotters though, but also the demand though is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible seeing how that their demand is right now. But also the popularity is just so fun to watch though. I watch their reels. I follow them on the web, and it's just so fun seeing how much fun that they're having with this product here. And I also think, though, it's in a way off base maybe, but I do feel like, though, this could be a way, though, that gets people involved with baseball. Now, again, I know it's a whole separate entity, though, of this is more entertainment than actual baseball being played. But like I said, though, in a day, though, where baseball has been suffering for so long to get back on the upper echelon, again, they've been plagued by steroids. They've been plagued by incompetent commissioners. They've been plagued by, filthy rich owners moving teams out of town for greener pastures. They've been plagued by, steroids. They've been plagued by so many issues. And I think that last year may or may not have been the best year, but I think, though, with the rule changes, though, with the game times being cut down in wake of, the whole, pitch clock and the pickoff rule, the disengagement rule, the bigger bases, the balanced schedule, where you play everybody at least once, regardless of league, that the Savannah Bananas can only help baseball with popularity. And I know it's not quite the same thing as watching the El Paso Chihuahuas play in AAA or the San Antonio Missions play in AA, or, it's not the same sort of ordeal, though. But I think anybody out there who might be on the fence about baseball watches a reel from the Bananas or watches a game and just seeing how they're having fun with baseball, that can get people, I think, back into the game, though. I know it's not the same as MLB or the minors, but it certainly, though, folks, is great, though. And I actually love the fact, though, that the Bananas are now going to play in some major league ballparks, though, on this upcoming tour, where I think, though, that you would probably have to, I think, though, honestly, and here's a pretty cool suggestion, I think. If, in fact, that the Bananas have this much demand in Houston and Boston, and all the ballparks that were listed, I say you play 3 or 4 games and you let everyone who's on that list get a chance to watch them play. I think that you let in 41,000 people in Houston, for example, game 1. Then the next round of people who are on the list, They get like, I think in a way you should try to guarantee that anyone who applied for the lottery in those markets, again, like over the 100,000 mark in Boston and in Houston, I think the only constellation prize you can hand out here, if you're the Bananas, I believe you would have to probably more than likely play like a 4 to 5 game series. Maybe you play a double header, in there somewhere. Now, I know this is going to be done probably while these teams are on the road, though. But I definitely would like to think, though, or at least speculate, and I would like to throw out there, play enough games where you can meet your demand. I think if you're a part of the first group of people who okay, so for example, here in let's take Houston for example with Minute Maid Park. Okay, it holds 41,000 people. If your name is in the top 41,000, you go to game 1, for example. After that, game 2, you take the next 41,000 people on your list, and you keep doing that until everyone gets a shot to go to a game. So I think it's only fair because I do feel like, though, that this almost feels like that concert tour where you feel like you're either you have FOMO or you can't get tickets because of how the system works. And I know we've had that issue with Ticketmaster when it came down to Beyonce and Taylor Swift during the course of their tours recently because of the insane fees and the exuberant prices, though. I think, though, if the Savannah Bananas want to make this really work to their full extent, though, the idea of going to 6 ballparks is great, though. But with how big your demand is right now, I would think it would only be fair. Again, it might be off the mark, maybe out of bounds or down the line and foul. But I think, though, you have those lists of all the people who are in the lottery for those markets. I would take the capacity of the ballpark and I would tell the Bananas, okay, look, we'd like to get everyone who's on this list into a game. Is it possible for you guys to play like 4, 5, or 6 games? Because what we're going to do is we're going to take the top 41,000 people in Houston first and let them see a game. We in a way, we want everyone to get a chance to watch the Bananas play a game while you are in their home market. And we think it's only fair to do so because we don't want them to feel like that they're missing out or that, they may have, that they're, again, tomfoolery could be involved here where something, weird comes out of it where people say, oh, they only pick these people because, they're on this list or, this, or you don't want to have that happen. But I absolutely, folks, think, though, that this is a great, great idea for the Bananas, though. Playing in these 6 MLB markets, though, and playing at the ballparks where the Red Sox play, Houston, and all that sort of stuff, though. But I would think, though, that there has to be one small constellation prize given out, though, that you would have to guarantee that anyone on those lists who applied for tickets, though, in those markets, they get to go to a game. Like if you have to play 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 games to guarantee that everyone who applied on that list gets in, so be it. It'll be during a time, though, where those teams are on the road anyway. So who's not to say that this can't work out or won't work out, though? With that in mind, though, folks, glad to be back with you here today on Press Row. As a reminder, everyone, we're going to be shifting gears to a 3-day schedule pretty soon here for Press Row. Probably not until the new year hits, though, or until later this month. Though we will be here Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Coming up, though, in a few weeks here, roughly at this rate, to bring you more of the big sports news, though, from the business and media side of things here on Coast to Coast. We also, folks, invite you to stick around later tonight. We will have our regularly scheduled episode of Sports Minute, though, coming your way later tonight on Wednesday. We'll talk all the big stories and other topics to discuss in the sports world at around 9 o'clock Pacific time back here on Coast to Coast Entertainment here this evening. Big shout out, and thank you to all of you for watching and for Christy Wilson for chiming in today. But, folks, we'll see you back here again sometime next week back here on C2C. Till then, folks, Callan McClurg saying good night here from San Diego. Till next time, folks, good night and bye-bye.